What, you have a podcast?
Really?
Computer, show the historical documents.
In order that the National Rifle Association and all of these gun lobbyists continue to be able to have control over our legislation. What's going through my mind right now is we need to fight for democracy in the state of Tennessee, and we need people not only just to vote, but people to show up and speak out so that we can end the gun violence epidemic that's happening in our state. This is wrong, this is unjust, and this is not the way that it has to be. There is a better way for us to live, and we don't have to live this way. But the Republican Party of the state of Tennessee want to keep things the same. If you want to fight to change it, if you want to help to make this place a better place, you have to use your voice, you have to use your power, and yes, sometimes you've got to get expelled.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Recovery from Politics Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Frame, and today is Monday, April 10th, 2023. So this morning I am living through my own little personal East Palestine situation today. There has been a fire in a pier that is very close to my house, and apparently it's loaded with Freon. And Freon levels are elevated now because every time one of those tanks gets too hot, it expels Freon into the atmosphere, which is where I live and breathe. So my kids are home when they should be getting ready for school right now because school has been, last I checked, just delayed by 2 hours. Hopefully it'll get cleared up soon, or they'll just cancel it. I mean, part of me is thinking maybe I should keep my kids home today just 'cause. I mean, holy crap, right? I mean, yeah, the EPA is monitoring things, but as we saw in East Palestine, that really doesn't, matter much anymore. Because basically what happened in East Palestine and what I imagine is happening here is that the EPA doesn't actually test anything. What the EPA does is they farm out to third-party laboratories to do the testing for them. And, well, I mean, if you're being paid by somebody, you want to give them good results, right? So, yeah, this is one of those situations where capitalism totally blows because I would prefer that the agency that is established strictly to make sure my life is healthy actually do the testing themselves and not farm it out to third parties. Because, again, third parties, you got that little push and pull, that tug that's like, well, I don't want to piss off the people that are paying me, so I should give them results that they want, right? There is a little bit of that. I mean, imagine for a second, you work for a company and they're like, hey, go out and test this. So you go out and you test it and you find out it's totally bad for the company. Like it is way wrong, right? Well, you, the worker, might decide, yeah, this is totally wrong, and you'll write up the report and everything. But then when you hand it up through the chain, your boss is like, man, though if we give the EPA or whoever this negative report, they might not hire us again. So maybe we won't lie. We'll just omit a few things. We'll turn it down. It's not that big of a deal. So I am a little concerned. But I am up in here in the Pacific Northwest, so it's not the worst place in the world, and Washington State actually does a pretty good job usually. I mean, no government's perfect. But yeah, I don't know. My kids are coming off a whole week off, so I am a little inclined to boot them out of the house to go to school today. So we'll go with that. But anyway, today's episode mostly is going to be about the Tennessee 3. So I have this issue with the whole story and the whole narrative so far. And so, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the common hot take right now amongst the left, the far left, the center left, and even the center right, the never Trumpers, the guys who are technically currently on our side. But, if the Republican Party ever regains sanity, they'll probably jump ship and go back. Or what they would really love is for the Democratic Party to go completely conservative, which may be coming up later in a second segment I'm going to have in a few. But for right now, the hot take is expelling the 2 black men of the Tennessee 3 is a ridiculous self-own by the Tennessee GOP. So they went out of their way to expel these Democrats. And they have made Justin Jones and Justin Pearson into rock stars of the political left. If they had not done this, nobody, even Democrats, would not know who these two guys are. And as you heard in the opening, one of them is a very good speaker off the cuff. Like, that was him talking to a gaggle of reporters, asking him, one-shot questions, trying to get sound bites. And he delivered. Like, he is an excellent public speaker. That was Justin Pearson. Justin Jones is similarly excellent behind the microphone. They're both young, intelligent. They are great communicators. And quite frankly, yeah, if you're just talking in a normal political dynamic, the GOP totally shot themselves in the foot with this. I mean, from the outside looking in, it looks like a complete and total cell phone. You idiots. If you had ignored them, nobody would be bugging you right now, right? Because you just gave these excellent communicators national media and political attention, okay? On all the talk shows since last Thursday, these guys have been prominently featured on every single news channel. Even the right is talking about them. Now, granted, they're going to skew it, but it doesn't matter. They're still going to talk about them. So, bad news is still news. So their names are out there. They've also garnered political attention from the White House. Biden is talking about inviting them to the White House. Kamala Harris has met with them and has given a speech with them. Okay, so they're there. They're now rock stars of the Democratic Party. They will receive a huge bump in campaign contributions from across the country because if you're like me and you live in Washington, well, yeah, okay, Democrats control everything up here, so there's no real point in donating to the Democratic Party of Washington State. But, hey, down in Tennessee, I've got these two rock stars who I agree with. They seem like good guys. I might be inclined to give them $5. So they're going to receive campaign contributions. And political power rests solely in name recognition. Okay? This was the big deal in 2016 was you had Hillary and then you had everybody else. And Hillary, just because of name recognition, was the clear favorite from day one. And yeah, Bernie caught up to her to a degree, but still, Hillary was the most well-known woman in the country at that time. So, political power, name recognition, these guys have it. So, barring some self-inflicted scandal on their part, their political futures are as high as anybody else in the Democratic Party. If one of them wants to run for governor of Tennessee, he can totally do that now. If one of them wants to run for Senate of Tennessee, they can do that now. Hell, if one of them wants to be the vice president on the next, ticket coming around, they can do that now. They have the name recognition. And yeah, sure, they're from a red state, so what the heck's the point of the Democrats doing that? But you don't know the future politics of the next presidential election or the one after the next, the 2028. We don't know how things will work. Maybe it would be beneficial to the Democratic frontrunner to have somebody from the South, from a deep red state, who can communicate to those Republicans to maybe, siphon off 1 or 2 points from the center. We just don't know the calculus at this time, so that's very good. Meanwhile, the Tennessee GOP have revealed themselves completely to be, one, hypocrites. Total hypocrites. Because just in 2019, they took zero action on an actual pedophile. Republican State Representative David Byrd is accused of sexually assaulting teenagers while he was their coach in 2019. And they didn't even take it up for a vote. They were like, nah, it's okay. And at the time, the Republican speaker, this Cameron Sexton, said, and I quote, "You have to balance the will of the voters and overturning the will of the voters," unquote. So, you've got him basically saying, hey, the voters voted for this guy, and it would be really bad if we overturn the will of the voters. So clearly he bent over backwards to justify leaving this pedophile, Republican pedophile, in office. But 4 years later, he is not giving that benefit of the doubt at all there. So total hypocrites. Second, they have revealed themselves to be completely and totally racist. Like, this is the ridiculous part, right? This is the Tennessee Three. This is what they're being called. Yet only 2 of them were expelled. 2 young black men, 1 woman, white. And they expelled the 2 black men and did not expel the white woman. They all were accused of breaking the exact same rules. There's not something that the black guys did differently than the white woman. So, I mean, if you're one of those people, and the Republicans did take this tact of a rule is a rule is a rule. You broke the rules, you skipped ahead of other people. This is a body of people and groups, and we all need to work together, and you guys jumped the line. You skipped ahead of other people who've been here longer. Okay, so if you're one of those people, then theoretically, you should have also expelled the white lady. And it was real easy because they did bring it up for a vote, but they couldn't do it. So it's like, are you guys serious? Like, you just exposed yourselves like totally racist hypocrites. Oh my God. Like, it was so ridiculously stupid. And that is the hot take, right? You've elevated these 2 very, very intelligent, good communicating black men, who are young, by the way, so they've got a long future ahead of them. Congratulations on that, GOP. And you've revealed yourselves to be hypocrites and racists. Holy crap. That's the hot take. I have a little bit of a different view on this. So I go ahead and I basically went, all right, who really wins from this? Who loses? Let's look at some GOP truths. 1. 0 Republicans in the Tennessee GOP will lose a single vote in their next election due to this. It's very early in the cycle. It's still only 2023. The election was just a couple months ago. By the time the next election rolls around, absolutely 0 voters who are going to the ballot are going to be like, you know, I voted for that Republican last time, but he, I think, broke the rules himself when he expelled those Democrats. So I'm not going to vote for him. That person doesn't exist. Okay, nobody's losing a single vote over this, period. So the Tennessee Republicans will continue to maintain their supermajority and keep their agenda. Their agenda is not challenged at all. It's not like, oh, we did this, so now we have to pull back the reins on transgender rights. No. They can keep going full steam ahead on their entire agenda. Like, this isn't a trade-off for them. They didn't lose anything. They're going to continue to have a supermajority. Even in 2024, they're going to continue to have the supermajority, and they're going to keep their agenda full steam ahead. Okay? 3, Pearson and Jones districts are so Democratic. Pearson is in Memphis, Jones covers Nashville. They're so Democratic. Republicans didn't even compete there. Pearson and Jones both ran unopposed. They got 100% of the vote. Meanwhile, Johnson, the white woman, it covers Knoxville. And in Knoxville, they did compete. Now, granted, she still mopped the floor with them at plus 15. Okay, so she won at a 15% margin, which is fantastic. That's a landslide, right? But still, hers is at least competitive enough that they're going to run a Republican against her. So they're like, well, you know, let's put her on the list. So I mean, if you're a political thought person, you think about it, you're like, okay, well, we're not even competing against Pearson and Jones, so we can kick them out, no fault, right? We're not going to lose votes to this. We're also not going to boost their profile. However, Johnson in Knoxville, now we have something to run against her. We have an ad. She was brought up to be expelled. She breaks the rules. We can run that political ad against her. And yeah, sure, maybe she still wins by a comfortable margin. But is it still 15? Or is it more like 12? Or 10? Can they shave off a couple points? Because again, the Republicans are very good at the long game. They don't care about next time. They care about 20 years from now. And what they're already thinking is, we need to shave off points. We need to cut a few things. Right? We need to keep Democrats on the defensive, right? The more ads we run about how we had to almost expel her, the more she has to go ahead and answer questions and talk about it. That's good, because then she's not talking about her agenda, which might actually appeal to people, right? So again, Okay. Fourth, the Tennessee GOP will receive a huge fundraising and media boost. So similarly to the Democrats, Jones and Pearson and also Johnson are going to receive a lot of media attention, and they're going to receive a lot of media, a huge bump in campaign contributions. The GOP is also going to receive that. Okay. Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the Tennessee House, is going to go out and he's going to be on the media. He's going to be justifying this. He's going to be talking about this. He's going to be, broke the rules, blah, 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 blah. And he's also going to get a huge bump in Tennessee GOP. Fifth, the attacks from the left are only going to endear the GOP to their voters. Okay? There's nothing better for the GOP right now than to be attacked by the left. We saw this just last week also with President Trump being indicted. As soon as he got indicted, his numbers shot up. His approval shot up. His support shot up. He fundraised like crazy. I guarantee you he made bank last week because, the left is against him. That must mean he's doing something right. That's the stupidity going on here. So, the more the left attacks the GOP, the more the GOP is going to just be dug in. Their voters are not going to abandon them for this. And then we get into the worse aspects of this. And my sixth GOP truth. They got to demonstrate their dog whistle bona fides to their racist base. Okay, they can't come out and say, yeah, we expelled the black guys. No. Dog whistling is very important. It's language that is used in a way to speak in code. Because again, they can't come out and say the N-word. They can't come out and say Nazis. They can't come out and say, yeah, we got rid of the black guys. They have to say code. They're like, well, they broke the rules. They skipped ahead of others. Isn't that bad? Things that it speaks to the racist element of the party, but also gives them plausible deniability with centrists, let's call them. And that's very important for them. Okay, this has been the Southern strategy since Nixon. Okay, I think I may be incorrect that it was Lee Atwater who made the statement and made it a policy and actually did say, you can't say the N-word anymore, so we have to say other things. We have to call them lazy. We have to call them welfare queens. We have to call them criminals, super predators. The code words. That way, it sounds racist, and of course the racists totally take it as racist. Like, they know. They nod along. Oh, yeah. They're on our side. But, again, to those centrists, it gives them plausible deniability. Well, what? I didn't say the N-word. I didn't expel them because they were black men. I expelled them because they broke the rules. Plausible deniability. Very important. And then the seventh, and the problem I really hate, is it further normalizes extremism by the Republican Party. Okay, we saw this, and here's my prediction, and also based on past. A few months ago, the House kicked Ilhan Omar off her committees for nothing, basically. They just don't like her. They don't. She's a Muslim brown woman. That drives them crazy. They hate her. She says, hey, maybe Israel shouldn't treat the Palestinians so badly, and they're automatically, oh, you're anti-Israel. It's like, no, whatever. Doesn't matter. They did that just a few months ago. Now, Tennessee expels Democrats. That's now. I have a hard time believing that Tennessee would have expelled these Democrats had Ilhan Omar not been so blatantly kicked off the committee. And again, there was no pushback from this. Not a single Republican is going to lose a vote because they kicked Ilhan Omar off their committee. So again, this demonstrated to the rest of the country, hey guys, you guys can go ahead and push the envelope. So Tennessee goes ahead and expels these Democrats. What do you think's happening next? Well, up in Wisconsin, we just had a Democrat completely and totally kick the crap out of a Republican for their state Supreme Court. Because mostly, at least the prediction is, because of abortion. Okay? It was a very clear dichotomy going on here. It was like, hey, if you vote for the Democrat, abortion is safe. And if you vote for the Republican, abortion is doomed in the state of Wisconsin. Women turned out in droves. Young people turned out. Elected the Democrat in a landslide. Well, even before the election happened, there were state, House, and Senate members up in Wisconsin talking about impeaching her before she even takes office. For no reason. None. They're still talking about it. And once they see, okay, Ilhan Omar was kicked off her committee. Republicans didn't suffer anything from that. Tennessee expelled Democrats. They're not going to suffer at all from this. What's to stop Wisconsin from actually going through and impeaching a justice before they even take a seat on the bench? Nothing. Who would lose? Again, Republicans are all about breaking the rules, breaking the norms, breaking all tradition to get power. They don't care. They don't care that the, demographics are against them, that the young people are learning to hate them, that old people are dying off. They don't care. They are not changing their tune, they're changing the rules. And so this will become normal, especially once the Supreme Court rules on the independent legislature theory, which I'm telling you is going to destroy the country. But that's my take, is that I don't think this is the self-own that the Democrats are thinking. Now, it is, to a degree. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jones and Pearson, again, barring some self-inflicted wound of their own, are rock stars, and they're going to continue to climb in the party. They're limited by nothing now. They have name recognition. But did the GOP really lose anything from this? Because the only people that are sitting here considering it a self-own are the people that already opposed the GOP to begin with. And I think, I don't think the GOP thinks of it as, aha, we're setting a trap. I think the Dems are going to walk into a trap of their own making where we get overconfident, right? It's kind of like 2016 all over again. We would never vote for the guy who said, grab him by the bleep. We're not going to vote for a guy who said Mexicans are rapists and murderers. This isn't who we are. And I think the Democrats would be fooling themselves if they actually think, we've got this in the bag. The GOP is just inflicting so many wounds. They kicked Ilhan Omar off her committee for nothing. They're expelling Democrats in state houses for nothing. They're talking about impeaching a Supreme Court justice who hasn't even taken their seat yet. They're crazy. No one's going to vote for crazy. And that is a trap. It is overconfidence, and I am very worried about it. So that is something that I think we genuinely need to talk about. So something I just want to mention right now that just happened last week. I believe it actually dropped on the 6th, yet I'm only now becoming aware of it. It has to do with transgender rights. Now, I don't want to say I'm not an ally. I am very much an ally. I'm not informed. That's my problem. I am not transgender myself. I don't know really anybody who is at all. I mean, I know of them, and I have no problem with it. And at the end of the day, I usually think of transgender people the same as anybody else. It's like, we're all human, How would I feel in that situation? I put my shoe on the other foot. I'm like, okay, well, I can completely understand not understanding yourself. I mean, even straight white men like me have that problem sometimes. I mean, hell, the whole country is having a straight white male problem where none of us know who the hell we're supposed to be or how we're supposed to act in certain situations. It's extremely confusing out there, and technically, I'm the guy living in privilege. So I can only imagine somebody else, going through even more, just exponentially more than what I'm dealing with. And it's like, dude, this is a minefield. And I'm hesitant to go into it because of my lack of information and my lack of firsthand experience or even secondhand experience with this. I don't know what the answers are. I do know we need to be a hell of a lot kinder because these Title IX rules that just came out, and I'd like to give a shout out to Erin Reed. She's on Substack at Erin in the Morn, so ERININTHEMORN.substack.com. She is a transgender woman who is following all this news and putting it out. Basically, the Biden administration, one of my main problems with it is that it believes that it won against Donald Trump in 2020 and believes also that the way to win in 2024, which is probably the bigger issue, is to be as centrist as possible on certain things. Don't do too much what the left wants, or the left will leave you. And they're constantly courting the conservative straight white male. And that's basically where they've stepped in it with this. Okay? Basically, with these new Title IX rules, they've given a roadmap to states on, okay, if you're going to be transphobe, here's how you can do it and it won't piss us off. Like they literally gave a roadmap. And I equate it with, racism as well. Is like, back in the day, it was like, okay, well, if you're going to be racist, okay, you're allowed to be racist in these ways, but not in these ways, right? And even today, there's kind of an unspoken word when it comes to racism. It's like, like I was just talking about. It's like, okay, you can't say the N-word, but you can, you can call them thugs, right? You can do that. You can do that. You can call them welfare queens. You can call them all kinds of things. You can call them super predators, criminals, code words, basically. And it's not an accepted norm because we on the left are like, screw all that noise. But, amongst the centrists and the right, again, there's that plausible deniability. It's like, well, no, we're not racist. We're just using these words to describe people. And it's not inherently about race. It's about their actions. See, we're safe. And that's kind of what I equate this with, because basically, while, especially sites like NPR and PBS are like, this is extremely liberal. Fox News, of course, is taking the other end of the other end of it, is like, oh my God, the Biden administration wants to make us all transgender and kill us. But they're going to say that no matter what. So, ignore them. So I was really confused about this. And then I went and I looked at it and it's like, holy crap. Like, they're literally saying, like, okay, so you can't ban transgender kids from competing in sports at all. You can't do a blanket ban. But if you wanted to say that transgender individuals cannot compete in track and field, right? You can do that if you try really, really hard, and then they list conditions like you have to consider the health and safety of the people, you have to consider this, and they have a list of things. It's like, you can totally ban them for this one sport if you meet these criteria. And it's all on the honor system, right? It's all on the honor system. The DOJ and whoever governs Title IX will have discretion at whether or not to prosecute certain states and go after and be like, hey, you didn't take into consideration well enough for these things. You didn't cover your tracks well enough, basically. And that, to me, is a real problem. At no point should any government give a roadmap to anyone on how it's okay to have a phobia or racism of any kind. You should not be able to say, okay, well, if you're going to be a transphobe, here's the right way to do it. Like, that's bullcrap. Like, are you serious right now? Like, that should never, ever be the case. Period. Now, again, my own uninformed situation, I don't know what the answer is for sports and how you do competitions. My uninformed take is that, yeah, men and women competing against each other in physical activities doesn't seem fair to me. Again, uninformed, just straight white guy who has no firsthand information on this. Like, it doesn't seem right. So I don't know the proper answer or how to do this. I do know that the way we've been doing it is wrong, right? So if you look at it in the past, what we've had black women kicked out of certain sports because they measured their testosterone and estrogen levels, and they're like, well, those are different from all the other women, so screw off. And my understanding of that situation is that they don't take into account that different people are different. Like seriously, like your diet, your gender, your size, like there's so much that goes into how much testosterone or estrogen a person produces that just blanketly drawing a line in the sand and saying, okay, well, if you have this much of this and this much of this, then that's wrong. Like, you can't compete. Like, I know that's wrong. Okay. So I don't know the proper way of doing it. At the same time, I know that there are full-fledged transgender teams where transgender individuals are competing against each other, which of course is not controversial at all. I don't think anybody's complaining about that. Basically, the complaint is, or at least what the right is complaining about, is, well, what happens if a man declares himself a woman and then competes against women and kick their butts, and then my daughter doesn't get a scholarship? And it's like, okay, there's a lot to unpack there, and there's a lot to go into it. Like, first off, what scholarship are you going to where the school is going to be like, we're totally going to give it to the guy who's cheating? Because that's the implication, right? The implication is always that men are going to use this to cheat by winning against women. Now, I mean, culturally, first off, if you're a guy, let's take it at face value for a second. Let's assume there is a guy who's going to willingly take advantage of this and be like, I'm a woman, I'm going to compete against women and win. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that person exists. There is no way in hell that person has anybody who supports him, who is a good human being, okay? That person would be seen as, you are blatantly cheating, you are a cheater. They will be ostracized by the community. Also, no man, you know how the alt-right is absorbed with manliness and machismo and everything else, okay? In what world would they celebrate ever a guy who wins by competing against women, specifically? And they know he's a cheater. Like he's doing this specifically to beat women. Like, I can't even, like, there's no way this person is ever celebrated or anything. Any events they win would have a huge asterisk next to them, okay? They would never be considered true or real, or it's like, yeah, you got first place, but go to hell. Like, seriously, no one's going to support this person. They will have no friends. They will be ostracized by their community. Secondly, again, capitalist society, what company, right? The right is always concerned about how the corporations are woke. Assuming that is true, what corporation would ever give this person a shoe deal or a sports beverage contract? None of them. That person would be toxic as hell. That person would not be touched. And if you're worried that your daughter would lose a scholarship to this person, again, what college, what university, again, these are supposedly bastions of wokeness, what woke university is going to go ahead and give a scholarship over a deserving woman for this blatantly abusing the rules male who's masquerading as a woman? Okay, that's where I have, like, I want to just grab people on the right and shake them really hard and be like, what are you thinking? Like, your own argument doesn't make sense. Your own argument wouldn't be real. It couldn't. There's no world in which somebody who is blatantly male purposefully saying they're female so that they can compete against other females and then win as a result, because we presume in male versus male competition they would get destroyed, right? So that's the only reason to even try this, is thinking, haha, I'm going to have an advantage. It's like there's no one who would accept this person. I would disown my sons if they did this. Okay? No college would give them a scholarship over another person far more deserving. No corporation is going to give them money. No team. Good Lord. There's no professional team that would ever hire that person. Okay? You would need the worst owner of the worst franchise of the worst sport to even consider it. And even then, there aren't enough people who are on this world who would support that. Nobody would. Nobody would. So, again, just even if you wanted to take them at face value, it's like this person that you're describing. And they do say this openly. There are several lawyers who are like all about anti-trans rights, and they always refer to former men who now identify as women as fakers. They never take it at face value. They never assume this is a real person with real feelings. It's always, this is a person who is cheating. They're trying to do something. They're trying to get something, right? It's all in their head. It's imaginary. It's not real. That's their point of view. And I have a huge problem with that on its own, but like it's just their argument does not make any sense to me. It doesn't work in any reality. And this is on their agenda. Like if you take their argument on their rules in their environment and the way they see the world, corporations are woke, universities are woke, everybody's woke, the government's woke, right? Everybody's woke. And then you're supposed to tell me that this huge woke establishment would rally around somebody who's blatantly cheating. Again, this is their perception, is that that doesn't exist. It really doesn't. So, I mean, and again, this is a huge problem with people on the right, is either they're making these arguments in bad faith and they know it's all bull and they're just like, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. Or they're making it in good faith because they're idiots and they haven't thought it through. Like no one's ever questioned them or challenged them on it. And because they live in a bubble where it's constant reaffirmation of what they already believe. And nobody comes in and pokes the bubble and is like, hey, did you guys ever actually like think about all the things that would have to happen for this imaginary person you're making up to succeed? And let's not, let's also take into account that this is not a problem. There are maybe at any given moment in a country of millions, 100 teenaged athletes competing in high school across the entire nation. Maybe 2 per state at most. And the Republicans are trying to create an entire, it's an agenda to turn us all trans. It's like, no, this is not a thing at all. The only reason we see an uptick in people identifying as transgender is because now it's even just slightly more okay to admit you are who you are today versus 20 years ago. They are not wrong. There do appear to be more trans people today than there were 20 years ago. I agree. However, I think because we're more tolerant today of trans people than we were 20 years ago. So it makes sense to me that there would be more because they're okay saying that they are. It's the same, oh God, it's so crazy. At the end of the day, for me, my uninformed, stupid, straight white man take is that they're human beings. I don't believe they're confused. I'm confused. I don't believe they're confused about their gender. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and assume that if you're born one gender or another and you desperately want to be the other, I'm going to take you at face value. I'm going to assume it's true, right? I personally identify as a man. I think of myself as a man. Everything about me is wrapped up in my manliness or whatever. And that's my own personal definition of manliness. I'm not judging myself by the right and what they consider it. But for me, my whole identity is I'm a dude. Sorry. So I have to assume that if there's somebody out there who looks like me, was born like me, and is now like, I just don't feel it. I think I'm a woman. Okay. I'm gonna take them at their face value because I can't possibly ever consider myself a woman. That's not how my brain works. My brain doesn't work there. It's the same thing as I had this argument with people back in the day about gay relationships. It's like, look, here it is, flat out. I couldn't become gay if I wanted to. Okay? I am straight. I do not find men attractive at all. Okay? I don't even find myself attractive most days. The very idea of me becoming gay because I read books that portray a gay lifestyle, or I watch a movie with gay couples in it, or whatever, right? Whatever the right is accusing me of. My teacher said the word gay in class one day. Oh no, you can't make me gay. I'm sorry. There's no amount of brainwashing that's going to do it. I can't suddenly become gay. That is a bullcrap thing. So I'm going to assume that if there are two men who love each other, that they must really love each other. Period. And even in my own relationships in the past, it's like, look, you can't choose who you love. You can't. There have been plenty of bad relationships, and I know all of us have had them. We've all had a few relationships where we're like, whoa, what the hell was I thinking? But you did love a person who, at some level, you knew wasn't right. You knew that they were toxic or bad for you or whatever. It's a bad relationship. You can't control who you love. You have no choice in the matter. My kids, I can't control whether or not I love my kids. I love my kids. Period. The second they were born, I instantly love them. It's just a thing. I can't control that. So why is it so difficult for some people to believe that if two people say they're in love, they go to bed with each other every night, they get married, they proclaim their love constantly, that just by having a class or praying it away will make them not anymore? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. For me, it's very simple. You can't make me gay, so I'm going to trust that two gay people, they must really like it. I'm sorry, they do. Because you couldn't make me gay. You couldn't convince me to. No book, no teacher in class, no peer pressure, right? That's always the thing. It's like, they're only gay because they're all their friends are, and it's the cool thing to do. And I'm like, no. Like, there are certain lines. Like, I'm sorry, if you're gay, you're into it. That's just me. Anyway, that's my uninformed take on that. I probably said things that were problematic there. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there because we're all growing, we're all learning, and hopefully 5-10 years from now, I'll do an episode on this and I'll sound much more eloquent and informed because we're constantly always learning. We're constantly always growing. We're becoming new people. And I would ask all of you out there, before you judge me, give some kindness. I am a straight white guy talking about something I think is very important, but I don't have all the answers to it. I just know that we need to be kind. We need to love each other. All humans, I don't care. All humans, we need to love more. We need to be more kind to. We need to hear their side of things. Okay? And that even goes for people who look like me. All right? There are plenty of straight white dudes who I would love to hear their opinion on things. I think we usually, as a big, huge group, get our say in the media more than anyone else. So that's why I usually try not to. But that doesn't mean that our experiences should be discounted. You should hear everybody's opinions. At the end of the day, though, if your opinion is garbage, we should also call you on that. Regardless, thank you very much for listening so far. This episode ran a little long because I decided to do 2 segments. I really only should have done the 1, but that's me. We'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for making it to the end of the show. It means a lot to me. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Tribal, Post, and most podcast platforms. This whole thing is a one-man show with 0 monetization. I use free software and only publicly available records. It only grows through word of mouth from fans like you. Thanks again, have a great day, and remember to always be kind.